Myron Phillips. I graduated in 1960. My first job was, I was going to be a guidance counselor. I had a degree in guidance, but they wouldn't hire me because I was too young. They told me if I taught a year, I'd have a guidance job. Well, after I was teaching 3 years and watched all the girls get hired, I couldn't pass that physical, so I left. But my first experience having a degree from Columbia was the first day of school. They brought all the social studies and English teachers who came from Ivy League schools and introduced the shop teacher with a master's in guidance from Columbia to sort of put them all in their place.
Was that you?
That's me.
Okay.
I had a degree in Columbia. They wanted that shop teacher has masters in Columbia.
So what is your most memorable moment at Teachers College, from your time at Teachers College?
I don't remember the most memorable moment. I worked full time. I drove in, and it was I was out on rush all the time. And the first experience I guess is meeting the faculty. The guidance department had their own suite with the professors in their offices all around it, so we had instant contact with our instructors. And that, I think, was probably the best thing I remember, is the suite with the staff right there, so we had access to them.
Okay, so since graduating from TC, what is the accomplishment which you are most proud of?
Well, probably at the end of my last paragraph, I was granted national certification as a school psychologist, and I enjoyed that position very much. And I enjoyed talking to judges because they didn't want me to talk, because the law says if I say it, the judges got to do it.
My name is Alfred Weiss. I call myself Al. I was here from 46 to 47, and we were departments comparable to the departments in high school. And I was an English major. I was in the really excellent English department.
With a master's, and you graduated?
Yes. Yes.
What is the most memorable moment from your time at Teachers College?
The awareness that I had come to the right place to become a teacher. As an undergraduate, I had taken ed courses. I was a student, and all I knew about becoming a teacher was what I knew as a child. Do what my good teachers did, and just never do what my bad teachers did. At Teachers College, I found out, no. Teaching was not about the teacher. Teaching was about the student. When I had the revelation that I was going to go out and become a teacher of students, that's when my real enthusiasm of becoming a teacher began here at Teachers College, and was maintained the whole year I was here.
And is there someone on the faculty or group of people who stood out?
No, I saw that question. I've always, talking about my undergraduate years, I was supposedly in a college with an extremely high reputation. It was amazing how few teachers I had who I thought I was really getting anything from. Here at Teachers College, all my teachers were outstanding. We had 3 professors, English department, Ida Jewett, Eileen Traver Kitchen, and Lennox Gray. All of them first rate, and all of them really taught me. In public speaking, there was Jane Zimmerman, and thanks to her, most of my students loved to talk after they were in my class, thanks to her. There was a core course. This was after the war. It was important that teachers understand all the dynamics that had led to the war and make that part of their teaching to kind of correct and prevent. In the core course, we had 3 professors. I remember their names, Professors Raup, Benny, and Butt. And it's there that I understood that all my teaching had to be in the context of the children's lives. In my class, they had to always be aware of their being part of a family, being part of a neighborhood, being part of a city, being part of a nation, and most important, being part of a world. It was in that course, which everyone had to take, that my social awareness, right out of that, I joined NAACP. It was that influential. So yes, all my teachers at CCNY were excellent and tremendously influential in my teaching life.
My name is Valmont Lois Jones. I graduated from Teachers College in 1957 in curriculum and teaching.
So what is your most memorable moment from your time at Teachers College?
I'm smiling because memorable was how I got here.
Tell it.
Because when I came to Columbia, I was interested in becoming a graduate school student. At that time, I wanted to deal in curriculum and teaching. However, because I was living in a segregated society and schools were not integrated at that time, so the only state school, Tennessee State University, that had a graduate studies program was in Nashville, Tennessee. There was no other black college that had that. So because I was interested in a study outside of what Tennessee State had, I had a supervisor. I was working at that time and a second grade teacher, and I had a supervisor who had become an alumnus of Columbia, one of the early blacks, and she started talking about Columbia, and she had come to Columbia because she had gotten funding from the state. And the funding came because what she wanted was not offered at Tennessee State. And this was my clue. Well, Columbia is the school I need, and I need to get all of the information I can to see how I can make this happen. So once I applied and went through all the hoops, I ended up at Columbia with the state having to pay the cost. And when I got to Columbia, I was just overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed because, first of all, I had never seen this many students in the summertime, and I went for 3 summers in order to get my master's degree. And all of the different kind of nationalities that I saw, I did not realize what a great learning experience this was. I knew it was going to be different, but not as different as what I had been accustomed to. Once I got here, and the professors, every professor I had so much patience and understanding, and really, I thought, saw me as an individual and with a personal need they could help me with. But if I have to remember any of their names, I can't remember the names, but I can see the faces. I'm old as I am now. And there was one teacher in particular And that was my advisor. Her first name was Alice, and I do not remember Alice's last name. But she guided me through this university so well and made it so easy for me. And everybody's so receptive, and that was kind of a surprise. But I didn't miss a thing on this campus with all of the experiences that I had. Whatever came along, I made it my business to take advantage of that opportunity on the campus and off of the campus. So I couldn't have made it without Columbia, and I'm just glad I came.
Hello, my name is Cynthia John. I graduated from here in 1961 and with a master's degree in history from Teachers College, and enjoyed it very, very much. And I thought, ooh, I'd like to go and teach at the university level. And a nice young gentleman who was one of my professors here from Brown University, he said, you know, this is before Title IX, you better stick to education. So, but anyway, it's what drew me to Teachers College, and I must say that I continued, started a doctorate here at Teachers College, moved to Pennsylvania, continued there, got a full scholarship at University of Cincinnati because I'd gone to fancy colleges such as Columbia Teachers College. And of course, then I got to the point where I had the dissertation accepted and we moved to Germany. So I matriculated at Bonn University as well as the University of Cincinnati. And just think, we moved back from Germany and Italy, and 1 year later, 1 month before the end of time for writing dissertations, I got mine in, and what it was the occupational aspirations of German youth and their parents for them. I did the sociological study up in Dusseldorf, Germany. And from that, and from really Teachers College, and I have to thank Teachers College because I don't think I would have done as much as I have done with my career without this wonderful beginning here. And one of the things I did as a vice president for student affairs at Harcum College, I started a program called PACT USA, which was parents and children and teachers together in learning. And what this was is we taught parents on welfare in the area of Kensington district of Philadelphia to be tutors in their children's classrooms. And as a result, most of them stayed on as teachers' aides or went on and got degrees, become teachers, and I'm hoping that their children did the same.
Julian Glover. I don't recall. It's been so long.
So yes, it's Julia Glover. I believe she was the class of 61 roughly?
I guess something like that.
Yeah, and graduated with family and community education. So she was a home economics teacher for 35 years.
Where?
Down in Augusta, Georgia, at Mussolini High School.
Do you have a standout memory of Teachers College that you'd like to share?
I don't. It's been so long since I was here.
Yeah, I'll probably say, if I remember her telling me, it was probably her time here coming up in the summers. She spent time in the dorms, so she came during the summertime, taught during fall and the spring, so yeah. She stayed around in Harlem during that time frame, so it's good times.
And where did you come from?
Georgia.
Georgia.
And you went back to Georgia to teach?
Yes.
Wow, for 35 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you think you took from Teachers College that helped you out?
Well, it's been so long, and my memory is fading.
Yeah.
I would probably say this since I used to spend my summers with her sometimes, and my grandparents down in Augusta, Georgia from time to time, and I think the what she learned here and the appreciation that the education she got here to take down, I remember times I used to go into the grocery store and all of her students would stop her. And I don't know if there was anybody that didn't know her. Yeah. So I think also her appreciation, I think what she taught me in getting a higher education. So I'm third generation going back for my master's as well. So and she set the bar up. She started pretty high. So yeah. So.
I'm Peggy Fisher. I graduated in 1963, an MA in psychiatric nursing. Well, most of my professors were great. Elizabeth Hagen, she stands out in my memory. Also, Professor Kremen, because they, what should I say? Elizabeth Hagen made me less fearful of the course that a lot of students, statistics. And she put me at ease with that. And Professor Kremen, because she could make a boring course in education come alive. So those are two that stand out in my mind. Well, I initially went into, after I finished, I taught psychology and sociology at Philadelphia General Hospital, and a summer session at UP for nursing students in psychology. Then I went from there into counseling in the Philadelphia Public Schools. So I remained there until 1993, and my last assignment was working with academically gifted students at Masterman High School in Philadelphia. Since I retired, I'm now a writer. I write about Black history and spirituality. And I'm working on a children's book now.
My name is Marfisa Marone Lombard. I graduated with a master's degree in special education, motor handicapped children, in 1948. During my 3 summers, 1946, 1947, 1948, that I spent at Columbia University Teachers College, I was fortunate to have excellent teachers. A few were unapproachable, but on the whole, most were exceptionally helpful. I especially remember Dr. Tewksbury, who laced his lectures with human interest experiences. I was also fortunate to be asked to participate in alternate experimental approaches to teaching learning situations. The work-study program also added to my growth. While I stayed on the campus, there were many opportunities on weekends to visit Carnegie Hall, the museums, and the Broadway theaters. On trips to Manhattan, I often was pleasantly surprised to be walking on the street next to a celebrity or sitting next to one at the theater. Having come from a small high school and small college, I remember with pride the remarkable growth that I gained as a result of my studies at Columbia. After I received my degree, I married and raised 6 children. During this time, I was an elementary school teacher for 22 years and then advanced to school administrator in the Title I federal programs for 14 years. I retired in 1984. I have kept busy with family, community, and civic organizations. Thank you.
I'm Donna Haynes, and I graduated in 1965 with a master's degree in special education.
And is there a standout memory for you from Teachers College, Donna? Something or a person perhaps who influenced you?
Okay, I can give you 2 things. First of all, I'll give you a standout memory, registering. I was petrified. I was coming here as a full-time student, taking a year off from teaching after 7 years of teaching. And I was coming here to study, to work in learning disabilities, but there was no program yet. And I didn't know what I was going to be doing. So my special person turned out to be Dr. Frances Corner. She was a fabulous director of special education for us, and she was extremely helpful to me. But what happened was, because she didn't have the courses I wanted, she convinced me that I would be a good student to work with a new person she had brought in to start a program for people teaching blind and partially sighted. Now, I had no interest in being a teacher of the blind and partially sighted, because I'm so visual myself it was never going to work. But I did it because I was the only student that she could send to this program at the time, and she couldn't have the professor have no students. So I did it, and it turned out okay for me. I stayed for the summer after I finished my master's to take the specialization by going out to I think it was called Niabic. We went to a camp in out in the Catskills somewhere. And at that time, I found out that everybody was calling these learning disabled children brain damaged. And it was really hard teaching, because I wound up with a job where the definition to be in the class was to be brain damaged or emotionally disturbed. So it was incredibly challenging. And after 2 years of that, I went back home.
I'm Sid Trubowitz. I got my doctorate in curriculum and teaching. Is there anything more you need to know about my identification?
The year?
1966.
So is there a standout memory of TC?
Not really, but I looked at the questions they asked us to think about, and nothing came to mind particularly about a standout memory. But I do recall a stand-up professor was Dr. Mile, who was my project advisor, and she was an enormous help. As I looked at the prospect of doing a thesis, it was a little daunting, because I had a picture of experimental designs, statistics, data gathering, control groups, and the like. And that wasn't my style. My style was more of talking to people, observing what was going on, and do it in a more people-oriented way. And she was only supportive of that. So rather than say, "Where's the data to support your statement?" she'd say, she'd provide encouraging remarks such as, "Oh, that was beautifully expressed. That description of the new teacher was excellent." And so the result was that my thesis was able to have more universal appeal, could be really of value to teachers, schools. As a matter of fact, I prepared, as I said, I brought a copy of it. Shall I just show it to the screen?
Sure. Yep. You have it published.
Oh, it was published and well distributed. That was my thesis. And I was glad because my career in teaching was always one of being involved in schools. Even though I was a principal of a Harlem elementary school. I was a professor at Queens College. I was chairman of the department. I was associate dean. And my most notable achievement, if I may put it that way, was the fact that the Board of Education and Queens College decided to open what they perceived to be a model middle school. And I became the college coordinator. And the result was that the school didn't open until the college and Board of Ed worked together on it. And I was the college coordinator who was there full-time at the school. And I really became part of the fabric of the school. I attended administrative meetings. I was chair of the school leadership team. I was part and parcel of how the school functioned. The result was that I was honored by the fact that the school was given great approbation, and they named if you go to the school now, the professional development room is entitled the Sid Trubowitz Professional Development Room. So I'm rather pleased that the fact was that I was an important part of school.
My name is Laverne Williams, and I am a graduate of TC in music education and elementary music concentration. And I graduated in 1957 with a master's degree in music education. Yes, most definitely. I had a teacher par excellence, and I had two teachers. One was Lilla Bell Pitts. Lilla Bell Pitts was a tiny little lady who had a lot of fire and go get it in her, and she was the type of person that wanted to help you to invite kids to know what music was all about, the rhythms and the singing and the reading and all of those elements. She wanted you to teach to your kids well. So what she did, she asked her class of quite a few, I've forgotten how many, to serve as a clinician on a certain day, and we had to decide on what we were going to teach, how we were going to teach it, and how we were going to inspire kids to want to be a musician or to learn all about music. Then my second professor was Harry Robert Wilson, who was the conductor of the Teachers College Choir. And we would go down the streets to the church and rehearse. And one day, every student that he taught had to conduct that choir. There were 600 choir members. And he picked me out and asked me to conduct that choir. We were doing a spiritual. I cannot remember what the name of it was, but that was the most enjoyable moment that I could imagine. And I didn't realize what it meant until it was all over. And then I fell apart.
Carol Congo is my name, RRLL. I graduated master's program at TC in 1955 in school psych. I found out that my first job was covered by a TC grad, John Smith, who was superintendent of schools in Rhode Island. That was the lad school. And then when after 8 years in Rhode Island, I came back to Long Island, and I worked in South Huntington School, where the superintendent was another TC graduate, Charlie Connell. It's just been marvelous, because even my high school principal had graduated TC, and I remember Dr. Cavello always saying he used to walk from First Avenue to Teachers College all the way across town, and I used to take the bus all the way across town. I've since been the head of a subject department at Rhode Island,
the URI. I taught there while I was still chief clinical psychologist at the Ladd School in Exeter, Rhode Island. Subsequently, in coming back to New York, that chief position always helped because I became the chief of psychological and social work services in South Huntington schools. It's been wonderful. I really have, and TC did it all because I had an exam, civil service exam in Rhode Island that was only for those people who started working and as I told my wife, it's a good thing I didn't fail the exam. We'd be coming back to Brooklyn, but things worked out well.
Hi, I'm Mitzi Robinson. I was here graduated in 1965. My degree was in speech pathology. I worked with Doctors Rigrodsky and Mysak. I lived in the dorms and then moved up to 123rd Street in Amsterdam. Lived with a roommate to finish the summer. I have fond memories of Teachers College. Some are much shortened over this distance of time, and I'm very glad to be here today.
My name is Elizabeth Morrissey, and I live in Cranston, Rhode Island. I graduated from TC in 1960. I have wonderful memories. I enjoyed coming here very much. I day hopped. I lived on Staten Island, and I completed my master's degree in 2 years. I went to the evening class, and I taught during the day children who were intellectually slow. I taught at Willowbrook State School on Staten Island. I've had some wonderful accomplishments, I think. I've had wonderful experiences. One of the things that I did, I wrote my little speech book in conjunction with my son, who is a social worker and who works at Mount Sinai St. Luke's Hospital as the Assistant Director of Children, Youth and Families. I also taught at Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C., and I was at the Kendall School for the Deaf. So when I finished here, I went on to St. Mary's School for the Deaf in Buffalo and the State University of New York at Buffalo and got a Master of Education. It has a very interesting life. God has been good, and I thank God for everything every day. I have 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. I have a husband. We've been married 51 years, and we are not retired. I have continued my speech pathology license, and I have a life license. So I'm able to maintain and keep up with the credits that are required for the American Speech and Hearing Association. We need 30 credits every 3 years. And I am grateful that I was able to do this. There goes my hat. What else can I tell you? That's great. All right. So I hope that the speech book will be of benefit to parents who want an option having children who are hard of hearing and deaf, and who want an option from the sign language. The sign language is very important. It has its place, but it's important for the children to be able to speak English and get along in society. So this book is written particularly for them.
My name is Joan Glick. I graduated in 1963, and I'm a speech pathologist, and my program was the Speech and Language Pathologies program. A very memorable time for me was when I entered in 1962. The campus was very alive with the events that were happening in the country. And when I walked into TC and our first class, the emphasis was on gaining the knowledge in the field that you had chosen. So it was very serious. We were there to gain the tools to help us to help others in the field. And Dr. Mizak was my professor, and he was a very dynamic lecturer and had lots of knowledge and was very funny, and he was very easy to get to know, and he knew every single student in the program intimately. And one of the most amazing things for me was when I went to the Speech and Language Center to watch him do an assessment and an evaluation. We went into the room that was to watch the assessment. It was a one-way mirror, and we went into a room that had, we sat on bleachers, and we had to be quiet and sit in the dark. And so this was the great technological event for the Speech Center. And now when I look at all of the technology that we use in speech pathology, it is amazing what, at that time, the tools we had and the really good work that we did. So it was a wonderful experience, and I think anyone who attends TC will gain lots of knowledge. The people there do not look for fame or money.
Yes, the name is Rodney Ruth. I received my Master of Arts in February of 1964. I majored in music and music education. There was a time when I first entered that I had the honor of being asked by my advisor, Dr. Ernest Harris at the time, to make myself available for an assistantship, which was quite an honor, and I certainly remember that gentleman very well. I was unable to, with time references, I was unable to accept it, but I really felt very honored to be accepted into that. My teaching experience from 1960 to 1998, I spent 37 years teaching in a economically depressed city of northern New Jersey, and I was proud of what I could accomplish during those years. It was a situation where the music department, the instrumental teacher arriving on a Thursday or a Wednesday at an individual school was the most important day of the entire week. So this is a residual of my attendance at TC.
Okay, my name is Glenn Anderson. I got a music education degree in 1962, and I understand they don't have this program, but I actually have another degree, which is same length as a master's degree. It was called at the time a professional diploma or a 6-year diploma. I got that in educational administration, and I got that, I think, someplace in 66 or 67.
Is there a standout memory of TC for you?
That's an interesting question, because when I first looked at this, because I've been looking at the first and second ones, I said, you know, it's been 50 years since I've been to TC. I have very, very seldom seen other people from TC. And when you're not reinforcing, saying, well, I had Professor Church in the music department, or I had Professor Murphy or something, if you have nobody to talk to about that, it goes out of your mind, you know, over a period. I mean, I think it's been 55 years since I've had some of those things. So I had, you know, some wonderful courses in the educational administration department, and I had some wonderful courses, but I'll be darned if I know who the people were who did them, you know.
Is there an accomplishment that you've made since years at TC?
Well, you know, that's why I brought this, because I was looking for this. We put it up here. All right. This happens to be an experiment. When I was a middle school principal, we did an experiment in totalitarianism. And we had a little over 100 seventh graders, and the objective of the program, which lasted 3 weeks, was to give kids what it felt like to live under a totalitarian government. And part of that meant to be deceived, meant to be spied upon, and a number of other things that are rather nefarious. And the end result of this, I was a principal. We had a very charismatic social studies teacher and a department chairman. And the end result of this was they were going to take over the school. They were going to be the principal. That's what it was. And you could actually get these kids convinced that that's what they should do. They should take over the school. And I got to thinking about this program because I had spent a long time since we did it, 44 years, with what's going on right now with the president and the kind of charismatic behavior he has. And we had this, and he was a wonderful guy, and the kids got through it very, very well. And we got them together 26 years later, several of those kids, and we talked about that because one of the gals who was there worked for PBS, and she had a lot of connections, and we were on This American Life, and we were in this thing, and so it was interesting to go back 26 years, and now it's been 44 years to the same project. And he's giving you the go sign, so I suppose I probably ought to get going. Anything else that I can do for you, Patty? Litchfield County Times. And yes, Litchfield County in Connecticut, right. And it was written, the article is very interesting, and they interviewed a number of the people 26 years later and the effect that had on it. So it was sort of a longitudinal study, which I thought was really very interesting.